Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to Events 201, Sustainable Author Events in an Unsustainable Time, a session that was presented at Winter Institute 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, it is 2:30 and we are going to be very punctual here. First of all, it's very warm in here, so I hope everybody has water and can stay hydrated for this next hour. We are here at the session for Sustainable Author Events in an Unstable Time. We will start with just a little housekeeping. We're going to go through the slides here, but those are also in your app. There's a survey in your app, so we'll want you to fill that out at the end. Preeti also has paper surveys, I think, that she can give out at the end if you prefer that. This is being recorded, so this will be available on BookWeb and BookEd. Everybody have your phones silenced. And then what we'll do is we'll go through our presentation. You'll hear a little bit from us, but we'll leave a lot of time at the end for questions. So hold your questions and we will get to those. And you have seen this, the antitrust guidelines. Those apply here as well. All right, and so these are some of the things we're going to be talking about, although as it always goes in these sessions, I'm sure we will meander a bit and veer into other topics a little bit. We'll be talking about some challenges, expectations for events, maybe a little bit about security. I do want to mention there is another session on security for events, I think, happening right now. So that might be a good one to bookmark that you'll want to come back to the recording for. We'll talk about some cost strategies and burnout, the rewards of doing benefits, and any calls to action. But first we're going to start with introducing ourselves. And we've had a little shifting in who's up here. One person could not make it, but I'll start with introducing myself, and we'll hear from the others who are here. I'm Holly Weinkoff. I'm the owner at Red Balloon Bookshop in St. Paul, Minnesota. We've been, thank you. We've been around for 41 years. I've had the store for 14, and we've always had a pretty active event program. Last year, we did 80 to 90 author events, both in store, out of store. We do 2 to 3 story times every week, along with several community events. So that just gives you a sense of the things we do in our store. And Kim, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kim Brock. I'm with Joseph Beth Booksellers in Cincinnati, Ohio. We have a second store. Oh, thank you. We have a second store in Lexington, Kentucky, which is about 90 minutes southeast of Cincinnati. We do about, on average, about 250 events a year between the two stores. And that includes a couple offsites and the rare school visit. We don't do as much of those since COVID, just kind of something that sort of happened. But like Holly, we have a very active and robust event program. We actually have 2 events this week that I'm not at, but that's okay. It's okay. So, yeah.
Hi, my name's Hannah Fenster. I'm with the Ivy Bookshop in Baltimore, Maryland. We are about to be 25. Our original store is about to be 25 this fall. We have 3 locations. The original store is in a big greenhouse. We have a book cafe, and we have a new location up in Towson. We did about 300 events last year. That's between author events, signings, kids events, school events, rentals, book clubs. So that includes a lot of things. Really happy to be here with you. I love seeing so many people in the audience who I already know to be like amazing events people. So in good company.
Yeah.
Great.
And to echo that thing, I mean, this is great to see a full room here for this. So thank you all for being here. And also I want to thank the lead sponsor for Winter Institute, Ingram, because without their support and the support of all the publishers, we wouldn't be able to do this. So, okay, well, things have changed in recent years. I know for our store, last year was actually the first year that it felt like we were doing events in the way and kind of at the pace as we were in 2019. It kind of took us that long to build back. I don't know if the rest of you have that experience. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about changes that we've seen in our stores what we've been seeing in these recent years, different collaborations, increased events, consumer interest, just what we've been noticing. Do one of you want to start with that?
I'll kick us off. So like Holly, we've noticed a change in the last 3 years. We're kind of back up to our 2019 levels. Excuse us. We're certainly doing less virtual events, even though we do get requests for those every now and then. There's still some authors who just are not comfortable being around people. They don't want to people, and that's fair. I mean, take care of you. So we're doing less of those. As far as our collaborations, we partner a lot with our community partners who are partnered with our membership program. And so we do a lot of partners with them and our local libraries. We also have a private library that we do a lot of events. It's a paid membership to join this library, but they do a phenomenal lecture series throughout the year. And we've partnered with them to be their almost their exclusive bookseller for all the events. And they bring in local people, some very big name people. They have a giant lecture series in the fall that they do. It's like a black tie event, and we're their exclusive bookseller for that event.
Cool. In terms of forces that have made our author events feel sustainable as we have built after COVID and in its current state is just really orienting towards relationships. Now we're in a moment where every author event that we do, whether it's someone local or someone coming in from out of town, needs clear, articulated community ties. We have a lot of frank conversations with out-of-town authors about how we can find a connection to Baltimore. I don't know if you all are seeing this or if it's Baltimore specific, but we find that even authors who come in from out of town who may have a really big name or a large online following don't necessarily pull an audience in Baltimore unless we can find a way to connect their work specifically to what's happening in the city and to readers in our community. And so just kind of slowing things down and making those conversations thoughtful. And so the lens has really become hyper-local. It's a question of how we can listen ever deeper to the needs and desires of our community while expanding that community all the time, using conversation partners as a tool for that. That's something that's changed since the beginning of COVID at our store is now almost all of our author events have a conversation partner. Mm-hmm. We've kind of done away with long periods of reading unless the author requests it, because it's just more fun, frankly, and the authors have more fun. And we also, in terms of our internal systems, just orient towards joy and festivity. That's become a central value, and using collaboration to that end. So both in terms of how it applies to the authors, like which conversation partner would be truly exciting for this person to speak with, but also matching staff with events who are truly excited about those events, using joy as a management strategy. All of these things have made events feel like an integrated and sustainable part of the store.
Yeah, those are all really, really great things to highlight. And, that idea of thinking about community partnerships and who you can work with. Like, for example, we work with, there's some great local children's theater companies in the Twin Cities. And so when they come to do an event that's, highlighting one of the things they have coming up, it's an event in our store that we have had to do very little lifting for. So that's one way we can be sustainable and keep providing author events. That idea of having conversation partners, and we always think about who in our local community would also be a big draw for this person coming from outside that maybe not everybody is as familiar with. Those are all great things. Let's see. Yeah. So I don't any more. So, we're talking about events kind of, and often we're focused on author events, but we're kind of talking about all the events. So author events, community events, regular monthly events, book clubs, all those things. Do either of you want to add any more about community events and ways you do those and ways you keep them sustainable?
Yeah, those every event is kind of a community event at our store. Some have authors, some don't. Those are always best as collaborations. And we just see every event as an investment in the social fabric of the store. So our philosophy is that readers who attend events and linger at them are the people who are more likely to come back to the store and develop a relationship with it. And so then the question just becomes, how do you encourage people to linger and build relationships between the people and the store? So one of the things we do is track in our event reports how long people lingered at the end of an event. That's a data point we collect.
I love that.
We also we also try to just track the authenticity of the interactions. So like the layers of the community who were there. There was an amazing event that we had this summer, the launch of a Maryland Master Naturalist handbook that had like the author, but also in conversation with a wonderful essayist on nature and community. There were farmers, gardeners, writers, neighbors, and kids in the audience. And that's a real success in our book if all those people are there. And then the last thing is financial clarity. If you know how much you need to make to break even for an event and how many books that equates to selling, then you can use that as a guide to determine how you schedule. So I was just thinking about like what is working. These are all concrete things that have worked in terms of moving from that question of, okay, what's the feeling we're trying to create? What's this nebulous relationship we're trying to build? How do we actually practically move towards that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for us, making sure you have a community partner is another way of getting the word out. Because while you're doing your marketing and your advertising and promotion, the community partner is doing that too. And oftentimes that's getting you an audience that maybe you didn't have access to before. We did an event, kids picture book about turtles, and did it in conjunction with the Cincinnati Zoo. And they came and brought turtles with them. And it exploded because people wanted to come and see and touch turtles. And they were like, oh, since I'm here, let me get the book too. So it was another audience that we, normally wouldn't talk to or our, promotion wouldn't get in front of. But because the zoo worked with us and they also were promoting the event, it reached out to another audience. So that's another way to lean in with your collaboration partners.
Yeah. One thing we always do at the beginning of each event, although we never document this, and now that you've said that, Hannah, I'm going to start documenting how long people linger. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of the event, we always ask who's in the bookstore for the first time, and it's always good to get that. There's some events where it's like, wow, so many new people showed up for this event. And that's a great thing, and more ways of building community. All right, so we'll shift and talk a little bit about some challenges. We all know the cost of doing all these things is getting more expensive. There's also, our store, our footprint is not that big. We do a lot of our events in our store, But it means that anytime we do an event, we are moving bookcases, we're setting up chairs, we're doing all of that kind of physical labor. So thinking about, the requirement on our staff, how to spread that out a bit. There's just, a lot that goes into pulling off an event. So strategies for how you manage some of those challenges.
So something that's been super transformational at our store is in 2022, we created an events team, made up of people whose primary relationship to the store is events and who understand the role of events in the holistic mission of the store. And then we connected them to each other in a cohort-based model and training. These were people who generally had other things going on in their lives, who maybe wanted like an hour or two of extra income a week, who were really excited about events and loved coming into the bookstore. And it was contagious. And by now, all of the event staff who started are now working in the store and vice versa. So we don't actually have a separate events team anymore because eventually everyone moved into the store. Several people got promoted. And the integration has changed our store's culture, our orientation towards events. It's changed it towards valuing books as agents of human connection, certainly without letting go of the value of books as tools for, internal processing and reflection, as they are super valuable for. But now we have also an energized, culture of valuing getting together and building capacity in community.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
How about for you, Kim?
Like for a day of an event, everyone knows that if you're scheduled that day, you're working with the event in some capacity. Either you're helping set up, you're monitoring lines, you're helping flap books, or whatever is required. If you're scheduled to work during the day, some kind of way you're doing something with the event. And for whatever, everybody seems to like events, more so than shelving, which I'm like, all right, cool. So they seem to be more happy, like your team, they're happy to do things with events. So it's not, you have to tell some people no. Like we get it. But the thing is with the two stores, you're able to go back and forth between the stores if you want to, if your favorite author is down at Lexington, you're allowed to go down there if their schedule permits it and vice versa. And then sometimes it's called upon, just depending on the size of the event. We need extra people, extra help. In the fall, we do 2 book festivals, and we always require people from both stores to help just because of the sheer volume of people. And it saves us on having to hire like additional staff to help out with that. We just use the store staff. Stores may be a little skeleton crew that day, but it helps with the book events. So,
Yeah. We, like you all, we have, everybody helps get ready for an event. And one thing we're trying to be better at is, we do have a checklist. And so really going through that with everyone who's there so that that physical work that needs to happen really does get distributed and not falling all on one person with the setup or cleanup, to make sure we're not burning out anybody. In terms of rising costs too, when we have an event that we feel like the attendance is going to be bigger than what we can accommodate in the store, and we start looking for outside venues, that can get expensive quickly. But we've been able to identify some partners who are willing to help us with that cost. So, in particular, there's a library school program not far from us. And they have a great auditorium. So when we partner with them and they're a co-sponsor of the event, that reduces the university's cost to us because we have an in-house sponsor. So we keep talking to the universities around us about ways we can build those partnerships. So that's a strategy for reducing costs. Do you all have anything else to say about challenges? Or I will say, one thing too, and I imagine many in this room are in the same situation as our store is we don't have a separate event space. And so one of our challenges too is when we're having a full event in the store and people come in to shop, we still want them to shop. So we've now like designated somebody to be like the greeter, so that when other people come in who aren't expecting the event know what's going on, and then we offer to help them find what they need and, assure them they can still, shop in the store. So, but anyway, any other thoughts?
No, just to piggyback off what you were saying, we just kind of work with partners, and that helps offset costs. Our local public library, when we do events with them, they don't charge us for the space, luckily. It's just the community service that they do. And for the most part with our events, if we have to use an outside space, which we try really hard not to, then we may need to tack that on to the ticket price. Because in general, the cost of your book is your cost to get into the event. And that's the only time we might add like a few extra dollars on is when we have to pay for it.
We have to cover that cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, and also our local public school system, a lot of them have really big auditoriums, especially our performing arts high school. So we use them a lot for the really big events because their theaters and auditoriums are like professional level because it's a performing arts high school. So if you have access to that, I would say talk to them because that's an unbelievable resource.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's see. How about the balance of, hosting these, big, well-known author events, and then also keeping local community ties? How do you all balance that?
I don't know about anybody else, but we get approached a lot by local authors. And bless their little hearts. Just bless their little hearts. They mean well. They really, really do. They mean well. So we came up with the clever solution that the first Saturday of every month, we do something called a local author spotlight. So on Saturday, it's basically a sit and sign. We have about 5 or 6 tables. Each author gets a table. They get the benefit from the weekend traffic. They're there for a couple hours, and then that's it. Versus trying to give every single one of them a spot, sometime during the week, because a lot of times it's very low attendance and you always feel bad for those events. So they all can kind of also feed off of each other's like people who they bring in. And that's sort of eliminated that. So that's like a nice balance of still doing a community thing, but then leaving space for the bigger events and the bigger authors that we kind of look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a really cool idea.
I know.
I like that. We host a lot of local author events. And some of the conversation in the planning process for those events is kind of, who are you? And what do you enjoy about being in Baltimore? Who are you connected with? What groups do you love? Do you have friends and family here who might come out? And so a lot of those end up being parties with friends and family, which is also great. It's a way to, we get to be a physical gathering space. We get to support someone on their big day. I mean, they did this big thing. So part of that is just knowing, getting a sense of knowing exactly how many books we would need to sell to break even. And then knowing basically through that conversation, okay, it sounds like probably 20 people are going to come. That should help us hit that. It'll be great. We found that doing tons of events that break even means that when a big name person comes to town, you have a reputation as a place that can do events really effectively and really festively. Mm-hmm. And you have relationships with a lot of different people who might be excited to then come out to someone who they haven't heard of before, but they trust you because their sister's husband did his book launch at your store. So it's all, every event is a fun event.
Yeah. And I think it's an important point. Those conversations that happen with the local authors who aren't known, because oftentimes what we find is those authors who are new just assume that, we have this incredible reach and power to just pack the store for any author that comes, and it doesn't work like that.
We wish.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So also being honest about that, and then really thinking with them. Okay, so who what's your outreach, and who can we bring into this that would also be interested? Yeah. All right. And anything else like challenge wise that you all are thinking about? All right. So I know one of the challenges, in recent years is oftentimes there are events that require security, either because it's somebody who is in a position or so well known that they need that. The publisher is requesting that. Sometimes it's the author feels more comfortable if there's security. We actually, it's been a long time since we have had to have security for one of our events. I think the last time was Chelsea Clinton came to our store when her mom was running for president. And so we definitely had security then. But I don't have a lot of experience with that. So I don't know if either of you want to say anything about security.
Same. Usually it's like a celebrity or former president that requires security. With former presidents or politicians, that's not up to you. Secret Service is coming whether you like it or not. And they usually involve your local law enforcement at some point. We had Jimmy Carter in our store before, and that required local police, bomb sniffing dogs, undercover people. It's like a whole nother level of security. But then on the other end of that, we had Keanu Reeves one time. He just was stopping by for his band was playing. And he was like, can I just come by and sign books? Yes, of course. And so we have an established relationship with security companies in both cities. They're local to our cities. And so we just called them up, let them know the situation. And they were able to provide the security of picking him up at the airport, bringing him to the store, making sure he was protected and all those things. And then sometimes we get requests from authors because they feel like maybe their subject matter of their book or who they are is going to cause the not nice people to come out. And again, we can call these security companies and have them know. Now, that's another added expense. In Cincinnati, there is a local organization whose name escaped me, but they provide security, so to speak, for many LGBTQ speakers and events, something angels. It'll come to me.
I know in the Twin Cities we have security.
But they're, I like that. I like that. Love that. Yes. But they will, come out and they're in the store, making sure that nobody's crazy. And if they know for a fact, like protesters are coming, and I know you've probably seen this, they have these huge giant wings that they wear, that they block out the people, or they'll come with their own drums and make noise so they can't. And we haven't had that, but they're in our community if we ever need them. And I know other bookstores have used them, but if we ever needed them, they're right there also.
And sometimes, too, with our events, when we know a lot of people are going to be there and, sometimes, too, just having, making sure you have like more staff and that everybody is paying attention in the right ways, that also, can provide a level of assurance. Yeah. But yeah, Hannah, did you have anything you wanted to say here? And again, like I said, there is a session right now about security. So, you can go back and find that on BookWeb after it gets recorded. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything here to highlight. We did talk, a little bit about, managing cost, finding ways to partner with organizations. And, when security is involved, that is going to be an additional cost. Anything else you all would add about budgeting and, how to make sure you're breaking even or doing better? I love that you all are like, setting your goal of this is how many books, so that everybody know. And we're working on that with our team, making sure everybody's clear about, for this event, we need to sell this many books for it to all make sense. All right. Let's see. And I think we touched on a lot of these things. Again, the ways you can work with partners to offset your cost. I will say, another way we've worked with universities and colleges in our area is, sometimes they'll reduce the cost of the venue for us. Sometimes if we're willing to let any of their students attend for free without, without the having to buy the book, they will also let us use their space. So yeah, just having those conversations to think creatively about how to make it work. Yeah.
I can add something, just in the sense that cost strategy is tied to attendance. I also think if readers trust an event series, they're more likely to come out for an author they may not have heard of. So that's a really wonderful audience building strategy that's allowed us to host poets who people may not have heard of, people with academics who are publishing books that they want to share with a broader audience than just the academy. We have a recurring series in partnership with Johns Hopkins called Humanities in the Village that does that. We have a poetry series called the Hot Ale Poets series that's entering its 8th year in partnership with Smartish Pace magazine, which just does amazing work we sell out of poetry books at every event there. And we have a partnership with the Baltimore Banner, so a media outlet that runs its own book club. And yeah, so just thinking about how you can build audience by having a reliable monthly or quarterly series that they know.
Yeah. Great. All right. And so, we've also touched on staff burnout a little bit and, ways we try to, balance things with our staff. It's important to talk too about recognizing everything that goes on to making events happen. I think for the rest of the staff, sometimes it's easy. Just like an event like this, it's easy for all of us to show up and be like, oh, look, it's all here and it all seems so easy. But so much goes on behind the scenes. And so just, highlighting that and making sure people are recognized for the great work they're doing in your stores. What other ways do you all make sure that the event team people in your stores are getting recognized? And
So prior to the event, we always send out something called an event overview. And that just walks everybody, even if you're not working the event that day, it walks everybody through the event from start to the last chair that's folded up. And then the very next day, an email goes out to everybody, recognizing everybody who was there, any highlights that, an author or a publicist or somebody might have said, anything that customers might have said about so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. And we just make sure that goes to everybody so that everybody sees it.
Knows what. So who does that?
It comes from the event manager.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think for me and for us, we try to make sure that everything that I'm doing and that for everyone who works on events, there's a system for it and it can be written down and duplicated so that no person becomes collapsed with a role. So if I catch myself developing a bespoke way to do something, I will usually go back and try to revise and make sure, if I had to train someone into this process tomorrow, could I do it? And those are conversations that we have in management meetings and when new people train into the organization. If we find a process that hasn't been written down, we try to do that so that these just become roles that are, there are particular people who are really wonderful at those roles, but they don't become collapsed with the roles. So
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Rotation is really good to rotate people around. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I want to leave a lot of time for questions. So we're going to go ahead and switch to seeing what questions you have and anything that we haven't touched on, we'll be sure to work in along the way. So one thing we do need to do, though, is wait for the microphone to come your way. Okay, the microphone is ready. All right. And yeah, I see somebody over there, somebody over here. This is where Preeti gets lots of exercise.
So you mentioned that you do a lot of conversation partners with your staff. So speaking of sustainability and burnout, what are you doing to reward the staff for their time that they are committing to the preparation work that it takes to be a conversation partner?
Oh, okay. So for us, we're usually tapping our local author community. So that's often who we're using for conversation partners. How about you all?
It's like, I'd say 90-10 that we use local authors, 10% staff. A lot of our staff are very shy and they don't want to. So, so the ones who want to, luckily, and we hope it stays this way, they're just happy to do it. Like they're just like, can I just come in? It's their off day and they want to come in and do it. So I don't know how long that'll stay that way, but right now we're going to ride that as long as we can. So, yeah.
Yeah, we use almost exclusively conversation partners from throughout the community. So typically I will ask an author who they might want to be in conversation with, and they already have an idea most of the time. Sometimes it's someone they already know in Baltimore. Sometimes it's someone they don't know, but they've heard of, and we can help them make that connection. And that's really exciting because then they get to have like a dream conversation. And those people get really excited to participate in the events as like a volunteer commitment, which they know upfront. And it's just a way for them to support someone that they have a personal connection with and their work.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, we have a couple times, now that I think about it, we have used staff a couple times. And I mean, I just make sure that there is time in their schedule, that, you know, that they're on the clock as for preparing for that. So that's what we've done in those cases.
Yeah, certainly the people's time get adjusted. Like if they're in conversation, they're not going to work their regular shift. Like the time they're in conversation is going to be adjusted. You know what I'm saying? So they're not working like a 14-hour shift or something like that.
All right.
I have.
Yeah,
so, Holly, when you mentioned you let your staff know how much you would need to sell to make the event profitable or well worth your time, what does that accomplish exactly? Because I feel like the attendance is written on.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we're working on this. I think Hannah maybe has it more dialed in, but we have started putting those goals up, but like weeks ahead of time. And so what that does is that helps the staff be very aware of what's coming up, how many books we need to sell, and encourages them to talk about it and mention it to our customers who are coming in, so that it's, you know, top of mind when, you know, somebody comes in, you know, and they get a sense of like, oh, this person might be interested in this author's books and they're going to be here in 2 weeks. That, you know, it just gets them talking about it more. Yeah.
Yeah. And
but yeah, you can answer too.
I just was, in case it wasn't clear, the thinking about the number of books that we would need to sell is something that I'm thinking about in the scheduling of the event. It doesn't get telegraphed to the staff necessarily because their job is to create the warm and welcoming event space. Yeah.
Hi. So I am events manager at a bookstore, relatively new. We're 2 hours from San Francisco, 6 hours from LA. So kind of just hanging out.
Yeah. So you're also kind of flyover country.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And so my question is obviously for the panel, but if this is allowed,
sure.
Honestly, maybe for anybody else here,
Yeah.
who's in a similar situation where we're like, I don't know how to get authors to come to our store, like other than just the local authors. And so, I mean, we've had a little bit of luck. We had like Shelby Von Pelt, a Remarkably Bright Creature. She mentions Modesto. So she was like, sure, I'll do a Zoom. You know, so we've had a couple things like that, but it's just kind of a struggle because, you know, no matter where it's a bit of a drive. We don't have money to pay for speaker fees. So I was just wondering if anybody has any advice for a bookstore like
I feel like that's
ours.
an age-old question. And I don't know if anybody up here has a response to that, or
I would say talk to your sales rep. A lot of our events come through our sales rep, believe it or not. They just we're like, hey, we're interested in this so-and-so, and they'll pass it on to the publicist, to whomever. And we've gotten a lot of events that way, just talking to our sales rep, mentioning we love to host, blah, blah, blah. Now, certain people you're just not going to get. I mean, they only go to certain cities unless you're in New York or something like that. You're never going to see certain people. And we just got to accept that in our hearts. You know? But there are other people, like you were saying, the one person who mentioned your book, mentioned like, hey, maybe you should come. You mentioned it in the book. Have a good proposal. Like sometimes you could be like, you know, if you come to our store, we'll donate to your favorite charity, or just something that connects back to that person so that they want to come there, you know.
I would also say, think about the local organizations in your community who might be interested in starting a recurring series around a given theme. Because if you can say that you have 40 people who come out every month to a series on whatever topic, that's a great way to pitch. It makes your pitch that much stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I have a question about like when you guys have conversation partners. At first, when we started our events, I was the conversation partner for anyone we had. Turns out that's not sustainable. And also I couldn't find anyone. So I started finding people. The problem I'm having now is I'm like, okay, so these events usually last around, you know, the conversation can be 25 minutes and then we'll open to like, you know, discussion for the audience can ask questions. It has almost happened, like it's happened a couple times now, 10-minute discussion. And then they're like, so audience questions. And I'm like, did you not prepare at all? Oh. Do you guys have any sort, like, are you preparing your conversation partners at all? Or are you just trusting, like, trust fall? Has this happened to no one else?
It's a little bit of both. For the most part, most of them come, and we sometimes it's like, here's a list of suggested questions, and we'll say, and the conversation should last this long, so they can kind of have an idea, okay, I should ask this many questions for this long. And then who's ever the host for the night is kind of in the back of the room, like letting them know you have 5 minutes, you have 10 minutes. So they'll know, no, please keep talking. So that's what we do.
Yeah. And same, like those early conversations and you know, giving some possible suggestions, but also letting them know, you know, they also can bring their own questions that they have. And we do have a few local authors who like, they love doing this. And so we know that when they're the conversation partner, we know it's good. But yeah, and then, you know, we'll have conversations or questions, backup questions, should we need them. Yeah.
I was worried. We don't charge for events, and we actually don't even have people RSVP for events. And I'm just wondering if that's a bad way to do it. I mean, should we? You know, I just don't know. I mean, we just sort of whoever comes.
You just put it out there, and then.
So I was just wondering if that's an okay model, or if we should switch.
Well, I think it depends completely on your store and what works for you. We don't charge for most of our events. It's I mean, sometimes, and it depends on what the publisher requirements are. We do require a book purchase, but that depends on who it is and what the publisher requires. And then if we are having to pay for a space, we'll add a fee to that. But a lot of our events are. You don't have to buy the book to come. We want you to come to the store. We do always have an RSVP. So it doesn't cost anybody anything, but it at least gives us an idea of how many people are interested. Yeah,
same. We don't charge for events unless like the publisher's like book equals ticket. And I guess that's charged, but they're just buying the book, so not
right.
Really.
Yeah, so you're requiring the book.
And like Holly was saying, unless we need to pay for another space, we usually don't add on anything. If we do, it's not a whole lot, but just to cover the rental of the space. And we do RSVPs on most of our events, and it's just to get a sense of how many people are coming so we can get a ballpark of how many books we should order. Because, you know, you don't want to order too many. I mean, you're never going to get it right, but, you know, you want to just try to get like as close as you can so you don't have, you know, just not enough books or way too many books too. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yes,
how many
right.
chairs?
How many chairs to put out? Yeah.
Do we need to move the bookshelves completely to the sides, or
Right.
just scoot them a little bit? Yeah. Yeah. So it's just helpful for planning, I guess.
And as everybody knows, you do that, but then sometimes you have very few people, or you have way more people than what you thought. It's you know, so
Yeah.
I have I have kind of like a dual part question. We also never charge because, you know, we believe bookstores are third spaces. So we want people to be able to come in and not really have to worry about those costs. And sometimes we worry that like there aren't going to be enough people. And we've had an author event recently where it was like me, another staff member, and one person and their kid. And like this conversation was so amazing. And I really wish more people could have come. So I guess my question is like, how do you really get people to come out to events, especially when it is like those local authors that maybe aren't as well known? Like, what are some ways that you get people excited for that? Like, how do you bring people in? And then additionally, when you are in that situation, what are some kind of ways that you can like combat it so that the author doesn't feel, you know, horrible or anything like that? And by all means, we had like a fantastic conversation. It was almost better that it was small because we kind of got into the nitty gritty, but like, what are some ways that you can kind of combat that with the author as well?
So the first part of your question is, we have a newsletter. It goes out several times a week, and the events are put in it 3 times a week. So at least 3 times, anybody who's subscribed to our newsletter, they get to see all the events. And then depending on which city it's in, the opposite city gets want to do a road trip email. And it's like, this person's coming. Do you want to take a road trip? Because it's like 90 minutes. So some people are like 90 minutes. I'll drive. So we do that. And then our social media certainly do that. And then we have several community event boards around our areas, and we always post it there. Because believe it or not, there are lots of people who read those community event boards, because we get people coming like, I saw it on City Beat. And we're like, no way, we didn't think anybody read that. But people do. And so we get a lot of people that way. And then we've all experienced the event where no one shows up. So what we found that we do is, when we see like it's not going to be like as big as we thought, we take away some chairs, and then it just becomes like a very intimate experience. And a lot of times those are the very best events. Like for the people who are there, then you try to make it the best event for those people. And they're like, oh my God, I got to sit there and talk to that author for like, 30 minutes about the book and blah, 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 blah. So even when it's not, and I mean, every author wants to have, hundreds of people there. That's just not going to happen. So we just try to make the less populated events feel as intimate and special as possible.
Yeah. And I know that's it's a very uncomfortable feeling when there aren't people in the bookstore or just a couple people. But I think over the years, I've learned to let that go a little bit. And, as long as I feel like we really have done what we can do. And then, and as I hear authors talk, like, well-known authors, and hear them talk about when they were starting out and nobody showed up for them, I'm like, yeah, this is sometimes how it goes. And yeah. But yeah, just making sure we're doing the things we can to let people know.
You can also have them sign books for a long time while you talk to them. But yeah, intimate. But this has been such a there have been some really wonderful events where we didn't have the turnout we hoped, because the booksellers are prepared to step in and be more active and engaged. It sounds like you were, so it sounds like you're doing everything right.
You did the right thing.
Yeah. And,
I on this side.
okay, over here.
Yes.
Last week we had a free event, book launch for a local professor, and about 48 hours before the event, we got a phone call that we had 3 hearing impaired deaf attendees that were coming. And so we scrambled for about a day and a half to try to figure out a solution to accommodate those attendees. And fortunately, the 11th hour, the small publisher paid the $200 for the sign language interpreter to come out.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, like, what strategies proactively you all have implemented so that you're not scrambling at the last minute and incurring, particularly when you're thinking about your break even for an event. I'm not factoring in $200 when I haven't sold book as ticket event, as an event that way. How you guys are proactively thinking about that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So we do on when an event goes up, we do have it very clear on there. If you need any sort of accommodation, whatever it is, to please, reach out to us as soon as possible, so that we can plan accordingly. And usually that's worked, but yeah, sometimes it is a last minute request. And we have a couple organizations for ASL interpreters that I keep handy for, when that occasion arises. And I guess we've been fortunate so far that when those things have come up, the publisher has been willing to work with us on covering that cost. But I know, how about you all? Have you had experiences?
We're lucky. One of our local community colleges has an ASL degree program. And so we partner with them a lot because like you, we always ask, if you need help, let us know up front so that we can, do our due diligence to get, whoever you need there. But the ASL program, they, as part of their degree requirement, they have to do events like that. And so we use them. Their professors have often stepped in. You can do that. And then we have a high school where they offer ASL as a foreign language requirement. Instead of like taking Spanish or French, whatever, you can take ASL. And their teacher has helped us out before too. So I would look and see what you have in your area, especially like your local colleges or whatever, because I'm sure they also have like a class requirement of so many hours they have to go do the, interpretation for people and see if they can help you out.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes, to all of that. And I would just add that any costs associated with that are just part of that. That's a separate thing. That's just, people need to be able to come to the event. So anything that needs to happen to help them get there.
Hi, my question is about financial sustainability. It's two parts. One is, you mentioned returns of books. When you're evaluating the success of an event, how are you factoring in how much you had to pay for shipping and for returns in the sort of financial success? And then the other part of that is, when you said you have a financial goal, is it just for that book, for that author, or is it overall sales during the event?
Mm-hmm. So we keep a running spreadsheet, and we look at both. We look at the book sale. Well, we look at the book sales for the book that they're touring for, but we also look at their backlist, so what that total is altogether over a period of time. And then we'll look at the store sales for like a 2-hour period, to get a sense of if it's how same or different is it from a regular Thursday night or whatever. So we'll kind of look at it that way. And then, and we're not great about this. This is something I want us to get better at, but looking at what like the percentage of what we sold compared to what we ordered, keeping that as one of our benchmarks to see how we're doing with our quantities. How about you all?
I think it's been exciting. I think at this point we're pretty good at tracking we know that we typically sell about 50%. Like if 24 people are attending, we'll probably sell about 12 books, like 50% of the attendance. And so if we have a sense of the projected attendance, then we know how many books we need to order. And then that also stabilizes, theoretically, returns. So, but we could definitely do a better job at tracking.
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah. Same with, that's kind of why we ask for RSVPs, just kind of help us with the ordering. It's not an exact science. If somebody gets that, let me know. But it certainly helps. So you're just not out there like Wild Wild West, I ordering whatever, and then you have like 200 books to return or something like that. So, yeah. And
I will, for our larger events, I will kind of do more of a P&L for the event to really track all the cost. And for those, we're generally returning those books on their own. With our smaller events, they get mixed in with other returns. So that's a little bit harder to track what it actually costs to do those returns. But for the larger events, we'll look at that to see how we're doing. Yeah.
I have a suggestion.
Great.
From the author's viewpoint, because I published a book a month ago with Random House called Nothing Random, which is a biography of the founder of Random House. And I've been giving talks with conversation partners. And I had one that was booked on a very cold night. The conversation partner was suggested by my publisher, a best-selling author who was rather up in years. And between 50 and 60 people showed up. The conversation partner began to talk, and what she did was to give about 5 minutes on the subject of biography. And then she turned to me and said, "I'm not going to ask you any questions." And I realized I had to give a speech for 25 or 30 minutes.
On the spur of the moment.
Now, what I had done, and this was the second or third talk, but what I had done was, because she not wanted to talk in advance, which seemed a little odd to me, I had done a list of questions for myself. What would I want to be asked about my book? What did I think was important that I talk about? Having done that list and kind of read it over a number of times and answered the questions for myself, that saved me that night. And people who came afterwards said, "We didn't realize." So I would suggest, and many talks I've given have been with people I have asked, other authors whom I know or specialists. But for instance, I'm going to go give a talk at Books and Books down in Coral Gables with someone whom I don't know. And I think it's really important that the author draw up a list of questions that can help the interlocutor and the author.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And in our communication with publicists or with the author, we will ask, is there something, are there things you want us to know or things you would like us to highlight? Or so again, to kind of have that conversation. I mean, often the answer is whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good
You'll
idea.
Don't ask me about blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not often, but you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi there. I have a question about cost sharing with local authors. So two different things. Initially, I was just thinking of asking about when you do the local author showcase event, first Saturday of the month, the sit and signs, are they bringing their own books? And then how are you dividing sales, et cetera? So you're not presumably ordering a bunch of books that you're likely to return.
Right.
And then talking about the question about the ASL translator or any other accommodations that are necessary, that do you ever talk with authors, if you're not working with a publisher, if you're working with an author, do you ever talk with them about those kinds of costs? That if they come up, is that a cost that they might share? I can't imagine the answer to that being yes from an author, or at least that they hadn't thought about it. But I'm curious now about thinking about that question.
Okay, so I'll answer your local author spotlight question first. So it depends. So if a book is available at Ingram and it's returnable, then we order it. As you know, with a lot of local authors, that just is not the case. If the book is not returnable, then they have to do what we call have to self-supply your book. And then we have a form that when they come in, we all count the books together. They go on the form. And then at the end of the event, we count again, and then we pay them for what's sold. We usually do the 60-40 split unless we've worked out something else, which is rare. And then they always know, take the books with you. unless we request the books. And usually it's unless it's like super hyper local history, take the books with you. And that avoids us having a weird conversation about returning books and all that stuff. Because it's always, you look like the bad bookstore when you want to return books to local authors. No matter what you do, it's never a good feel. So we find that when we do the self-supply, it just works out better for everybody. And then I think payment is like within 30 days, they get paid for whatever they sold at the event. And it just keeps it nice and clean for accounting, for you, for inventory, for the author. That's just the way we go. We've never had a local author, like not a publisher helped out to pay for accessibility people like ASL interpreters or something like that. So I'm not sure how that would work. I don't think we would ask them.
Yeah, I don't think
that's something we just do.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
That's it. Oh,
yeah.
Really? Oh. Okay, we'll be here if you want to ask us more questions.
So we've reached 3:30.
Yes. But we're here, so please, thank you very much.
Thank you. And also, please remember to fill out the evaluations, and that helps for future planning.
Yes.
And I have a couple of the paper evaluations. If anyone wants to go the paper route, you can fill them, give them to me here, or you can drop them off at the welcome desk. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!